Hello viewers, Super GT here. This is the beginning of the end. FIA season is upon us, but this is going to be the final one on Gran Turismo Sport. Opening today, we're going to crack on, try and have a good season. This will, as I said, most likely be the final one before GT7 is released in March 2022. So, we're going to stay loyal to BMW. I've driven with BMW for the last couple of seasons and I've rather enjoyed them as a brand. We're going to, of course, whip on the beautiful quadrant livery. We've gone with the M6. There's a choice of 3 cars, essentially, in Group 3 for BMW. The Z4 and the M3, the other options, but I'm not an absolute maniac. Okay, jumping in to qualifying. Round number 1. Let's see what we can do. Can we begin the season on the front foot? Here's the privilege of having a PS5, getting let out of the pit lane first, which can be a very big advantage. But you need slipstream around this track, especially in qualifying. So I'm going to have to slow down, let everyone catch up and go past and find myself a nice little space between the other drivers. And who better than certain Mr. LZR Tijni to find ourselves behind. So let's go for a qualifying lap. Let's see what we can do. Dragon Trail Seaside. That of course means we have the death chicane to contend with. And the race is going to be 15 laps. 15 laps through the death chicane. So that's quite a lot of times to avoid death. Let's see if we can do it. So first chicane, not too bad. We do have the benefit of the slipstream. Most certainly from Tijni, and then he has the slipstream from the cars in front. So we're kind of a good position here. We do get closer to the cars in front. Now, of course, you have to kind of time your momentum. You don't want to catch up with these cars too quickly, otherwise you're losing time at that point. Now, through the triple chicane, not carrying quite as much speed through that first apex, losing a bit of ground there, actually. And then they're very much on each other here. So the Citroen actually backs out. And then coming down into the hairpin at the bottom of the hill, the two ahead are both going to go deep. And I'm going to go through past the pair of them. So I know at this point that my qualifying lap is better than those 3 that I've overtaken. So that's something at least. So here we have the death chicane. Let's see if we can deal with it just fine without succumbing to death. We've done it just fine. Ollie there having some sort of mistake and losing ground. So that's 4 people we've actually overtaken on the qualifying lap. So I know they're going to be quicker than them at least. Felt like a good lap otherwise. It's a shame that we don't have the toe for this last sort of third of the lap, which could be worth 2 or 3 attempts perhaps. But coming up to the line, let's see what the lap time is going to be. As we cross 35.7. Pretty pleased with that actually. On to the second lap. I bailed out because I knew that first lap was going to be our best one with the tyres wearing out. And after all that, ladies and gentlemen, you guessed it, we qualified in P6.
Oh yes! He's done it!
What is wrong with people? Fantastic little clip there. I'm pretty sure I've actually used that as an FIA intro before, but I gave the penalty to the smart car. Obviously that smart car was in the wrong. Okay, here we go then. 15 laps of Dragon Trail Seaside, aka Death Chicane. Let's see what we can do. Starting 6th on the grid in the BMW, starting on the soft tyre. Now the requirement for tyres in this race, soft and medium, will pit in roughly in the middle and swap over to the mediums. We've gone for the aggressive strategy, and of course you can start on the mediums. We don't know who is starting on the mediums at this point in time. We just have to go with it, see what happens. And already French driver off onto the gravel. He's in the Supra. The Supra, very, very strong around this track. And this is the thing about the manufacturer series. Of course, everyone picks their brand. Some cars are really good at certain tracks, and then they're really bad at other tracks. You just have to make the most of the rounds where your car is really good. Now, BMW for this track, I don't think it's exceptional, but it's not awful. So it's kind of an average round for me. So let's just see what we can do, pretty much. So Tijani a little bit wide there. He's going to lose 2 positions, possibly on the medium tyre, but we'll see later on. I have good traction on the exit there against the Citroen ahead. First and second now with a sizable gap. I'm trying to get my words out there. Through the def chicane for the first time, and we have not died. We have not died of death, which is the leading cause of dying. So into the final corner, just trying to get it nice and tidy through here. Then on the power onto the main straight. Now, early stages in this race is going to be maybe more than 20 minutes in length. So I thought, okay, let's bump draft the Citroen and try to get a little bit closer to the guys in front and just be a little bit patient here, work together and see what we can achieve. You can always achieve great things when you work together. Always remember that, guys. Sometimes you have to be selfish, of course, but for now, early stages, let's not do anything too silly, too rash. Into this corner here, just breaking on that shadow just into the back of him slightly there, did bump him. No contact penalties at the moment in this game. We're going to skip forward to the def chicane, lap number 2, we get through just fine. Very tricky because sometimes you feel as though you've taken the correct line, but then the curb won't be too kind to you. Your car will just bounce up in very awkward ways. So tricky, very, very tricky. Probably the hardest chicane in the game, I would say. Possibly in Gran Turismo history. Through here again. Citroen getting it slightly wrong this time around. You seem just grazing the wall on the exit. You lose a couple of attempts if you do that. That gives me the momentum to go through up the inside into the final turn. And now it's my turn to try to set the pace here and try and catch up. I did notice we were gaining on this guy in second. The guy in the lead is in the Supra. Pretty much no chance of beating the Supra when the Supra is in the hands of a capable driver around this track. It's going to be very hard to beat. We just have to try and beat as many other people as possible. And we are in a Citroen sandwich at the moment. One of the most tasty sandwiches available on planet Earth, that is. So down the hill, lap number 4 now, into the downhill hairpin. So for those who haven't not familiar with the circuit, it's kind of 3 hairpins. It's kind of a triangle. So each of the points is kind of like a hairpin, and then between each hairpin is like a different type of chicane. Def chicane being one of them here. And we have a semi-def there, and we lose crucial momentum. Thankfully, I get bumped from behind by Fento and the Citroen, tidging up the inside in the Ferrari. We're going to try and whip it around the outside, and it's that moment there that tells me that he's definitely on medium tyres, because I was quite easily able to sweep around the outside there. Normally, if we were both on the same tyre, he would have been able to keep that position on the inside. So I'm pretty sure I've got a tyre advantage here against most of these guys, especially given I started 6th and I've quite easily caught up here and onto the back of 2nd place. So the first half of this race, we're going to go aggressive, try and gain as many positions as possible, and then the second half will be a bit of a rear guard defence, trying to keep ahead of these guys when they're on the soft tyre and I'm on the mediums. We'll see how it develops. Lap number 5 now, through the triple chicane. It's difficult to get right. He's gone a little bit wide there through the second bit. He's going to go very wide on the exit. The Citroen, very good handling car. And he's going to keep it under control. Down the hill into the hairpin, not quite close enough to go for this move. We have a bit of a train developing now, and that's very commonplace around here, of course, with the slipstream. Plenty of straights, and therefore, if you just sit within sort of half a second of the car in front, you're in a good position. You can just sit there, be comfortable, a little bit wide for that first apex. Not quite grazing the wall on the exit though, so we're all good. Are we going to go for this move here? Now, you've got to be somewhat clever about when you go for the move. I could have potentially gone for the move there. We might as well wait for the main straight, which is a lot longer. So getting a good exit. I'm going to look to the right. He's going to actually flash his hazards. We're going to go to the left-hand side. This will in turn give us the inside for effectively turn 1. I mean, this right-hander, I suppose, is turn 1, but you don't really count. You almost don't count it. Then here, first proper braking zone, and we sweep into 2nd place, 5.3 seconds behind the Supra in the lead. So that guy is just absolutely flying. No real chance of catching him. Should be able to go flat out through there. Bit of a comfort lift. As our tyres are just beginning to go off. I did a bit of practice in these tyres. By the 7th and 8th lap, they significantly drop off and your pace just really worsens. So perhaps by the next lap we'll begin to notice that these tyres are really beginning to go off. You see our lap times there, in the mid to high 37s each time. By lap number 7, we're coming up to the chicane once again, playing it nice and safe, still raising the wall on the exit. Not good timing because Citroen's going to get alongside us. Probably should have defended this because I am going to go into the pit lane in just a moment's time around this corner at the end of lap number 7. Let's see how this one develops. We're going to get the switcheroo, move to the right into the pit lane, and at the last moment the Citroen comes in as well. Did not expect that. And you can see there I was the only one on soft tyres in that front group. So the second half of the race begins, and this is going to be where it's very tricky. I actually end up inside the Citroen. Fantastic. Now, this is where things are going to be tough. I'm on the worst tyre for the remainder of the race compared to everyone else. We had a good start moving forward, but my main objective now is to stay in the slipstream of these guys. And then the longer the race goes on, the more their tyres will wear out because they have the softs. Just got to stay in the race basically. Just stay in the tow, stay in the race as long as possible, and then hope towards the end that my tyres are a little bit better condition than theirs. And therefore, I might have to gain some positions back. So you see a nice big group of 5, and this is a good thing about Manufacturer Series. I think I really do prefer it over Nations Cup. Nations Cup is usually a bigger mix of cars, a lot of road cars in that series as well. There's the odd really good race in Nations Cup, but I think I typically prefer Group 3 and Group 4 Manufacturer Series. Lots of different cars, lots of different types of races, and you've got to play to the strengths of your car over the course of a season. It just feels like a more realistic sort of championship. A little bit wide there, and unfortunately for the Mercedes just behind, he has to go to the back of me, and he loses crucial momentum. It's just one of those things that happens on that chicane. If the car in front loses momentum and gets it wrong, sometimes you've got nowhere to go. You have to bump into the back of them. But he does get through, so I lost 2 positions there. I mean, it's not a total disaster just yet. We are dropping positions, and on the medium tyre, maybe 3/4 of a second or a second off. Tishney just come out of the pit lane there. See if we can get past him with the momentum. Yes, we can. Just going to get back into 6th position. Did not mean to go for that move. Just kind of braked a little bit too late. And then luckily nothing comes of it. So, settling into this second stint now. And we have 6 laps to go. Plus the remainder of this one. See if we can just keep this good position. I mean, just to finish this high up in what is perhaps second split by this point, this might be okay. My driver rating is about 69,000, which is near enough as high as it's ever been. I don't think I've never hit 70k driver rating, as far as I can remember. So at the moment 69k, about as high as it's ever been. Of course, for those that don't know, whoever has the highest driver rating will get matched into the highest lobby, and then the next highest will get put into the second split, and so on and so on. So I think this is second split, we're in the second highest lobby, possibly the third one. But given that Tishney's here, I think it's second. This is where my race completely unravelled though, as I met my fates at the Death Chicane, and it was going to happen sooner or later. I did not feel comfortable through there. I suppose I never do. So I've officially died of death and lost a good couple of seconds there. Maybe I'd say about 3 or 4 seconds. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't a complete death. It wasn't a full death. Just sort of a half death. And half deaths are much more preferable. If you can go and get a half death, then definitely do that instead of a full death. Now, this is lap 11. By this point, my fellow BMW driver caught up to me. Now, ideally, I should have been about 4 seconds up the road by this point if that mistake wasn't made. But what that mistake did, is it just put me further back into the pack, and it left me vulnerable to quite a few cars here. So I'm in 7th, not too bad of a position, but we have 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th very close behind. Now the Spaniard is going to go through here in the BMW. I thought, okay, that's fine, we can just tuck in, get in the slipstream. If he's on softs, they're beginning to wear out by this point, so we can just hopefully stick with him. But there was no need, because he actually died a full death there. After just giving out advice about half death, he just completely ignores it, and he seeks the full death. What an absolute maniac. But there he goes, to his fate, and we're back into 7th. Now we have another Spaniard trying to hunt us down here in the Aston Martin. Now this is a very difficult car to defend against, because it has such good straight line speed that you're kind of helpless on the straights. So here I'm going to move to the right as we go over the crest down the hill. He has to go to the left, which is the outside. I'm going to try sweeping around the outside. It's a good attempt. I have the inside here, but now we're going to go side by side in towards the most dangerous part of the world, and he's going to run me into the barrier here quite unceremoniously, but then he's going to run himself into the barrier very unceremoniously, luckily only for a half death. So that's 2 for 2. We've got 2 people just behind now. I'm going to defend this one. We've got 3 laps to go, still in 7th. I don't know how I'm keeping this position, to be honest. The tyres, they're beginning to die of death. Aston Martin behind now, another one. He's going to go to the left, and there's not much I can do about that. I'm going to try and tuck into this slipstream once he goes through. Now I could go for this almighty lunge here. It's one of these things where you have to decide how late in the race is it? Is it the right time to start really vigorously defending your position? Because the more you do it, the more you invite more players to try and overtake you. And at this point in time, we aren't too bad of a position, because yes, we do have one guy immediately behind, but then there is a bit of a gap to 10th, as you can see there as we look behind. So we've got a little bit of time to play with. You know, if there was 10 cars right behind me right now, that would be a much worse situation. But we've got a bit of a gap, so I don't have to worry immediately. Now you can see Spinala UK pulling away. He's definitely got this pace advantage, and not much case for me trying to beat him. It really is a battle for 8th now, as Hasnain 282 goes up the inside. We're going to go for the old switcheroo, get him back on the exit. He did have to go in quite narrow there, so we try and keep the other car as narrow as possible for as long as possible into a corner, and then they're very likely to overshoot. That's exactly what happened. So through the chicane, and we get through there just fine. I leave the inside open here. He doesn't go for it. It's fine. I mean, that's the right way to do it, because you want to wait for this straight. You've got to be smart with your overtakes. And there's not much I can do, as I've said. Aston Martin, an absolute beast in a straight line. Plus he has the slipstream. I'm going to force him to the right, which is going to be the inside for this bit, but then the outside for turn 1 proper. I'm going to have to go for late on the brakes. If that was lap 1, I would have let him go, but this is lap 14. We're near the end. So I've got to try and keep this position now, as we are running out of time in the race. Maybe 2.5 minutes left to go. We're in 8th. We've lost 2 positions from the start. To be fair, you know, we made that catastrophic error, the half death. We lost 3 or 4 seconds. To be fair, I'd only been about 7th. So I've only really lost maybe 1 position because of that. So, although you could argue if I had stayed in the slipstream, that would have been good. Now, through there for the 14th time. Not quite as graceful as I would have liked. Slightly suboptimal. It's half covered the inside. It goes up the inside. Okay, we're coming up to the final lap now. This is it. Can I get this 8th position? It's a battle for 8th. That's as good as it's going to get. So, I'm going to tuck into the slipstream. And you can see just how good that Aston Martin is, because even though I have the slipstream, I'm only now just catching up. He's going to defend the left-hand side. Fair enough. It's the right thing to do on the final lap. But then he doesn't really force the issue too much. I'm able to sweep around the outside. I'm surprised he didn't let off the brakes and just run me slightly wide and make me back out. That's what I would have done. But then, you know, it's a good battle. So we can't complain too much, and we've gained a position. So we definitely can't complain. So I now have to just hold this position for the remainder of the race, which is about a minute. 1 more minute left to go. Down the hill. 10th and 11th, not too far behind, so we don't want a half death at the chicane, or even a full death. Preferably not a full death. Don't like those. As we come down the hill then, for the final time, I'm going to defend the right-hand side. The inside is going to go left. Force him to the wrong side. Is he going to be able to sweep around the outside? He's going to try it. Got it pinned on the apex. Got to get a good run here. Because as we've seen before, we can go side by side, and he's got the inside now. So this time I'm going to back out. I do not want to get run into the wall like what happened before. Through here, I just had to play it safe. Because, you know, it's very easy to make that mistake, especially when someone's right in front of you. You can't quite see the barrier, and you can easily hit it. So, is there going to be a chance here? Can we drag past him up to the finish line? It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So as we finish the race, it's going to be a 9th position. Disappointing to lose one on that final lap. But it was a really good battle. It was a really fun race, actually. I really enjoyed it. The strategy wasn't quite right. Should have gone soft tyres second. Look at this three-way battle for 14th position. Very close across the line between those three. But yeah, ultimately the strategy wasn't quite right. But it was a nice way to start the season. Just want to have fun with this one. It doesn't matter so much about the result. Let's just have a fun race. And ultimately we finish in 9th for 217 points. Not quite as high as I'd like. I think I need to be getting above 250 each time. But there you go. Really enjoyable race. There is the calendar for those that want to see it. This season just ends into the new year. But I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking around to the end. And have a nice day. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.